I'm in the middle of our conversation already, but we'll pull you up to date here. Edward Lawson is the head of his own consulting and entrepreneurial firm in San Francisco. He liked taking long walks when he was on business trips in San Diego, often in the middle of the night. Nobody bothered him except the police, who in the course of 2 years arrested him 15 times, or at least stopped him and talked to him about vagrancy, loitering. He did not have the ID or the money they thought would fit that neighborhood. He didn't look like he fit the neighborhood, so they said. Edward believed that he had been arrested for prejudicial reasons, and he carried his battle and his complaint to the complaint against the state's laws all the way to the United States Supreme Court. He won his point. He's back with us today to bring us up to date not only on what his life is, whether or not he is continuing to take long walks and be arrested for no good reason, and it is a pleasure to see you again.
Well, as I had commemorated to all your colleagues, it is certainly a pleasure to be back.
Good. You are described by some people as a social critic, but you don't deal in generalities, do you? Are you on a specific stump for some reason or other?
Well, that's interesting. Sort of echoing the interest in phrases of your earlier guests, maybe the word stump is not quite the right term. There's a very specific project that we are about at this particular moment. As you correctly discerned, through no design of my own, I had occasion to find a particular law, a particular wrongdoing on the part of some elements of our government. I took that particular evil and went through the various stages of the court system, eventually ending up at the United States Supreme Court.
This was the illegal search and seizure.
It was an illegal search and seizure among many other questions. In other words, in California, there was something called the ID law, and what they did was they discriminately stopped for identification purposes those who were black, those who were brown, those who were young. One of the things that happened because of all of the notoriety, the Donahue, the Oprah Winfrey, the Good Morning America, is we had a lot of people who started writing us, calling us, saying, look, I have tried all sorts of options to remedy things that I think are wrong. Is there anything you can do for us? And out of that response, we put together a group called ProPerInc. ProPerInc's essential function is to give people some of the guidance and some of the tools to be able to represent themselves in the political arena or in the judicial arena. One of the specific projects that ProPerInc is presently involved in, to give some clarity to the notion of what we're stumping for right now, is that you probably, like a lot of other Americans, have had some vague notion that there was a bicentennial afoot, but you're not really clear whether it's on or off, but you are sort of clear that it doesn't seem to have involved you. Well, the reason for that in our thinking is that the very Honorable Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, Mr. Warren Burger, is the head of the Commission on the Celebration of the Bicentennial.
He's not your favorite person, is he?
I don't really deprecate folks. You know, we're two entirely different universes. I'm sure Mrs. Burger thinks he's the world. I don't know the man. I'm not really, terribly interested in slinging mud in his oatmeal. The point that I do want to make is that that commission, under the aegis of Honorable Mr. Burger, had been meeting in private to put together the celebration for the bicentennial. They were doing that, I think, until Ralph Nader's Public Citizens actually took them to court and said, you're going to do this in public. And what they're doing is it's the same old boy country club on the Potomac where they're planning a nice sort of marble statue, red, white, and blue polyester celebration of their favorite parts of your Constitution. What we at ProPerInc decided had to be done was that we set up a group which has been titled the Unauthorized Commission on the Bicentennial of the United States Constitution.
Now, this is not like the doo-dah parade, is it, in Pasadena?
No, I don't think there's a great deal of do or da in them. I think there's some very real issues here.
So you're serious.
We are serious,
right.
And we think that there's a very serious vacuum. We think that there's a very conspicuous absence of a voice which needs to speak.
And whose voice is that?
That voice is the voice that lies, interestingly enough, on the other side of those cameras. That voice is the voice that has to reflect that the Constitution of the United States, when it started, was an unacceptable, totalitarian document put together primarily by the yuppies of that particular day. That if you were not wealthy and male, you were not a member of the club that the original Constitution set forth. It was Benjamin Franklin, I think, who complained when questioned on who was in attendance at the first party to sign the Constitution, that there were no women that there were no slaves, that there were no poor people. You can take that same description of Franklin that was true 200 years ago, and you can apply it to the party that our venerable colleagues out at the Potomac seem to be putting together. So what we want to do is to give voice to all those people who are the people who have really taken the original Constitution and with their blood, sweat, and tears forged it into what is a unique document today, but not the document that started out. Those are the people that need to be on the podium. Those are the people who need to be personified in statues, not just the founding forefathers. That was only half of what has become something extraordinary.
Now, ProPerInc then is what people?
Well, ProPerInc is, I would say in the vernacular of California, is a very loose organization. There is something intrinsically ad hoc about my life, and I think everything that I touch sort of contracts that same ad hocness. We're a group of people who, coming out of our experiences with taking the original case to the United States Supreme Court, the original California ID law, just recognize that there were an awful lot of good Americans who are not wealthy, who did not have the resources to hire the big lawyers, who were just wandering around bleeding from near fatal wounds inflicted often by the people in government who are supposed to protect our basic civil rights. We recognize there were a whole lot of people like that, and that we could only shrug our shoulders and turn back to our own personal business for so long. And so we just put together this loose group of folks. Our initial intent in ProPerInc was to deal primarily with the judiciary, to see what we could do to sort of de-lawyer the judicial system, sort of like, you know, black flag, get a spray that you just spray over the entire court, and half the lawyers would, you know, scream raid and disappear. And at the same time, we wanted to re-people the court. Freedom means nothing if you have to ask an expert before you have permission in order to take that freedom into your own hands.
I hear you. We have lost our time, but I know you'll be willing to come back again.
We'll look forward to it, as always.
Edward Lawson may be the president of ProPerInc. I'm not sure how many members there are of the organization yet, but we don't sell him short because we know there are a lot of people who would like to be members of this organization.
And we say very clearly, we're putting together a newsletter. We'll give you an address where you can send us your idea for celebrating your favorite part of the Constitution in the coming year.
Good.
And we'll be sending that newsletter out.
An eloquent, eccentric voice that I have enjoyed hearing very much this morning.
And a charming voice which I've enjoyed responding to.
Well, thank you. We're going to relate to each other a little longer while you break for a commercial and then come back to us.